Africa's regal history is a tapestry rich with cultural depth and remarkable legacies, often overshadowed by colonization narratives that have rewritten the continent's past. In the midst of these stories are the forgotten heroines, the queens and leaders whose influence shaped empires, governed societies, and led revolutions long before modern struggles for equality. These women were not merely adjuncts to their male counterparts. They were sovereign rulers in their own right, commanding armies and demanding respect on the international stage. Recognizing their importance means understanding the comprehensive history of African power and legacy. One can trace the significance of these women back to ancient kingdoms such as Nubia, where Queen Amanirenas led her people to resist Roman conquest. Her strength and strategic cunning during one of the empire's attempted invasions ensured that the Nubians were never fully subjugated. Her reign represents defiance against European domination, exemplifying how African leadership has long resisted foreign oppression. Similarly, in 19th century Angola, Queen Nzinga of Angola was a formidable leader whose diplomatic prowess kept Portuguese colonizers at bay. Her tactical acumen and mastery of alliance building preserved her people's autonomy despite relentless imperialist pressure. In today's world, these stories invigorate modern movements for women's rights and African empowerment, connecting a contemporary audience with a rich heritage. For instance, African feminists often invoke these historical figures to highlight indigenous role models who have historically paved the way for leadership and independence. Yet, challenges remain in reviving these narratives. Much of Africa's regal history is orally transmitted, vulnerable to distortion or loss. Western historiography has also minimized these contributions, framing African history from a colonial perspective that neglects local achievements and stories. In re-examining these narratives, it becomes essential to recognize their connection to broader African themes of resistance and identity. By celebrating these heroines, one does not only acknowledge their power, but also reclaims a narrative of self-definition for Africa. Bridging this regal past with present dynamics requires an appreciation of both the struggles and triumphs embedded in Africa's history. Honoring these forgotten heroines isn't just an academic endeavor. It's a vital cultural revival that empowers future generations to draw strength from their heritage, championing a complete and proud narrative of Africa's regal past. Tracing the origins of Africa's royal dynasties and lineages is a fascinating journey into a past rich with impactful leadership and cultural prosperity. For centuries, these dynasties formed the backbone of Africa's political, social, and economic structures. A royal dynasty is typically characterized by a succession of rulers from the same family, and in Africa, these lineages are deeply intertwined with both myth and documented history, often led by women whose contributions have been overshadowed by patriarchal narratives. These dynasties encapsulate a worldview where queens were not mere consorts, but rulers in their own right. The significance of these dynasties lies in their ability to challenge the oversimplified notion that African politics have always aligned with modern stereotypes of male dominance. For instance, the Candace queens of Nubia, who ruled over parts of present-day Sudan, were renowned for their administrative acumen and war strategies, such as Queen Amanirenas, who famously led her troops against Roman invaders in the 1st century BCE. Their lineage emphasizes a matrilineal succession, showcasing women's importance in state and society. Another illustrative example is the powerful women of the Ashanti Empire in present-day Ghana, where figures like Ya Asantewa, Queen Mother of Ejisu, rallied the Ashanti to resist British colonization during the War of the Golden Stool. Her role underlines gender dynamics in leadership, being referred to as both a warrior and a strategist who embodied the spirit of independence and fierce sovereignty that defined her lineage. Examining these dynasties opens up conversations about the importance of reclaiming historical narratives and acknowledging the female rulers who shaped their societies. While some historians argue about the accuracy and extent of their role depicted in oral traditions, there is a growing challenges remain in tracing these lineages due to colonial disruptions and the loss of oral histories that were either undocumented or deliberately erased. Moreover, there's an interpretive tension between traditional accounts and modern historiography about the matriarchal aspects of these dynasties. These royal dynasties not only highlight the power structures within traditional African societies, but also provide a lens through which to view the continent's complex and diverse cultures. Understanding the origins of these dynasties links us to a broader narrative of Africa's history, where forgotten heroines played crucial roles in governance and heritage, thus forming a bridge to contemporary discussions on gender equity and leadership. Africa's history is a tapestry woven with remarkable stories of leadership, and within this rich narrative, the often overlooked contributions of notable queens and empresses stand out as beacons of female empowerment and resilience. These women were not only symbols of grace and beauty, but also shrewd leaders who shaped their societies and wielded significant influence over their realms. One prominent example is Queen Nzinga of Nubia in present-day Angola. Nzinga became known for her formidable diplomatic skills and military prowess during the 17th century. She led her people through tumultuous times, resisting Portuguese colonization with strategic alliances and innovative warfare techniques. Nzinga's leadership was instrumental in maintaining the sovereignty of her kingdom, earning her a place of honor in African history. Another exemplar of regal leadership is Queen Amanirenas of Nubia, a state in what is now northern Nigeria. Amina lived in the 16th century and is celebrated for her military innovations and expansions that extended her kingdom's influence far beyond its borders. Known as a warrior queen, Amina established fortified walls known as Ganuwar Amina around Hausa cities, which represent a historic landmark in Nigeria even today. Her reign not only brought her kingdom economic prosperity through trade routes, but also inspired generations to value progressive female leadership. The significance of these female leaders goes beyond their strategic and diplomatic successes. They broke traditional gender norms, proving that leadership roles transcend gender, and they left legacies that continue to inspire contemporary discussions on female empowerment and leadership. Despite their accomplishments, challenges persist in recognizing the full contributions of these and other female leaders. Patriarchal historical narratives often overshadow their stories, and cultural biases contribute to their relative obscurity in world history education. Yet, these women's legacies are gradually being reinstated in the broader historical discourse, thanks in part to historians, educators, and activists who are dedicated to highlighting their once forgotten stories. This resurgence encourages a more inclusive understanding of Africa's regal history, where both male and female contributions are acknowledged and celebrated on equal footing. Ultimately, the stories of Africa's queens and empresses offer compelling connections to broader themes of gender equality and leadership in modern society. They remind us that the power of leadership is not confined to one gender, and that acknowledging diverse historical narratives enriches our understanding of collective human achievements. As we uncover and celebrate these stories, we illuminate the paths for future generations to view leadership in its most inclusive form, drawing strength and inspiration from the remarkable women who have preceded them. Throughout Africa's regal history, women have played pivotal roles in governance and warfare, yet their contributions often remain overshadowed by during this crisis exemplifies the crucial role women played in defending their realms against external threats, cementing her legacy as a symbol of resilience and resistance. These stories underscore the essential contributions of women in warfare, challenging stereotypes and reshaping historical narratives that have long ignored their achievements. Their significance extends beyond individual accomplishments. These women inspired large segments of society to reevaluate the capabilities and roles of women in governance and military affairs. This rethinking paved the way for contemporary movements advocating for women's rights and empowerment across Africa, drawing on these historical precedents as a foundation for change. However, acknowledging these heroines also invites us to confront the challenges of gender biases that persist in historical documentation and recognition. Much of what we know about these women comes from oral traditions or fragmented records, which can sometimes lead to discrepancies or debates about their true influence in stories. Critics may argue about the historical accuracy or the embellishment of certain narratives. The core truth remains. Women were central to the governance and military strategies of many African societies. Intersecting with other aspects of Africa's regal history, the roles of these women prove indispensable in understanding the continent's diverse political structures and war strategies. Their legacies inform current discussions about gender equality